Church policy had it that blacks had the mark of Cain.
Look, that's behind us. Don't worry about those little flicks of history.
Governor Mitt Romney wants to be the next president of the United States. The president is supposed to be the servant of the people, all people of the United States, white, brown, yellow, red, and black. But in the case of Mitt Romney, there may be a problem. Mitt Romney is a Mormon, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah, with over 13 million members worldwide. There are about 6 million Mormons in the United States. Mitt Romney served as a missionary for the Mormon Church in France in the early 1960s. Later, Romney served as a Mormon bishop, like the volunteer pastor over a congregation of about 200 people in Boston, Massachusetts. Until Mitt Romney was 30 years old, the Mormon Church banned all black people from its priesthood and its temples. This priesthood ban began in 1848 and continued until June 8th of 1978. Before June 8th, 1978, a black Mormon could enter a Mormon temple for only one reason: to be sealed as a servant to a white Mormon so that the black Mormon could become an eternal servant to the white Mormon god or goddess in the eternities. Needless to say, only one black Mormon woman I know of ever did this. She was sealed as an eternal servant to Joseph Smith in the 1860s. There have been black Mormons since 1832, but not many of them. At first, they had full equality in the Mormon Church, but in 1848, Brigham Young banned them from the Mormon priesthood, which every Mormon male over the age of 12 holds, and from the Mormon temples. A Mormon cannot be married for all eternity, nor become a god or goddess, until they are sealed in a Mormon temple and remain faithful to the Mormon church leaders until the end of their lives. In 1848, Brigham Young introduced the Curse of Cain doctrine into the Mormon Church. This Curse of Cain doctrine was preached by Mormon leaders from 1848 until June 1978, over a period of 130 years. The Mormon leaders have never repudiated the Curse of Cain doctrine, nor issued an apology for it. I'll give you a brief overview of the Curse of Cain doctrine. According to the Curse of Cain doctrine, all humans were spirit sons and daughters of God in the pre-existence, also called the pre-earth life or the pre-mortal realm. You and I were there as spirits, according to Mormon doctrine. So was Heavenly Father and his wives, and first son Jesus. Jesus and Lucifer, God's second-born son, got into an argument, and a war broke out. 2/3 of the spirit children followed Jesus, and 1/3 of the spirit children followed Lucifer. Mormons see Jesus as the firstborn son of Elohim, our Heavenly Father, and one of Elohim's goddess wives. They believe that Jesus is the exact physical image of God the Father, meaning a white man with red hair, blue eyes, and freckles. 1/3 of the spirits followed Lucifer, the second-born son of God. Mormons don't draw paintings of him, but in Mormon temples before 1950, the devil was said to be black. But in 1950, that was removed from the Mormon temple ceremony. In 1990, many more changes were made. Jesus and the spirits who followed him won the war in heaven, and cast out those spirits who followed Lucifer. Those spirits who followed Lucifer became the demons that wander the earth. Those spirits who followed Jesus in the war in heaven became human beings, us. Early Mormon leaders taught that those most valiant in the war in heaven, the most heroic spirits, were born as white babies in the image of God, since Mormons believe that God and Jesus are white men. The Mormon Church always taught that Adam and Eve were two white people because they were created in the image of God, whom Mormons believe is an exalted white man who lived on a planet before this one. Adam and Eve had many sons and daughters, and all of them were white, like Adam and Eve. But how did the black race begin? The Mormon Church had an answer for that as well. Mormon prophets taught that Cain was originally white like his parents, although less valiant in the war in heaven, but he was allowed to come to earth and be born, because God wanted the less valiant spirits to come to earth too, but he would mark them with a mark. Cain couldn't have the priesthood, but he wanted the priesthood, and was jealous of his brother Abel, who had the priesthood, so Cain killed Abel. God saw that he killed his brother Abel, so God sent a curse upon Cain, which meant he would wander the earth, and also the ground would not yield its fruit to him. Furthermore, God would ban Cain and all the descendants of Cain from the priesthood until all of Abel's children first had the opportunity to hold the priesthood. God cursed Cain and put a mark upon him. According to the curse of Cain doctrine taught by Mormon church leaders for 130 years, Cain was changed by God from a white man into the world's first Negro. Cain then married his sister. There were no other women around, and God changed her into the world's second Negro. Cain and his sister became the parents of the black African or so-called Negro race. This was taught by the very highest Mormon leaders for 130 years, from 1848 to 1978. This was called the Curse of Cain doctrine. Brigham Young, the second president of the Mormon Church, and the man who first preached the Curse of Cain doctrine, declared over the pulpit that Negroes were the children of Cain, and that the mark of Cain was a black skin, a flat nose, and kinky hair. Let me quote from Brigham Young himself. Cain slew his brother. Cain might have been killed, and that would have put a termination to that line of human beings. This was not to be, and the Lord put a mark on him, which is the flat nose and black skin. Trace mankind down to after the flood, and then another curse is pronounced upon that same race, that they should be the servants of servants, and they will be until that curse is removed." End quote. Brigham Young, Journal of Discourses, Volume 7, page 290. Not only did Brigham Young ban all black Mormons from the priesthood and temples, he also banned interracial couples from getting married, under penalty of death. Let me quote him. Quote, "Shall I tell you the law of God in regard to the African race? If the white man who belongs to the chosen seed mixes his blood with the seed of Cain, the penalty, under the law of God, is death on the spot. This will always be so." End quote. Brigham Young, Journal of Discourses, Volume 10, page 110. At least one black Mormon had his throat cut from ear to ear in Salt Lake City in 1866, allegedly for trying to marry a white woman. His name was Thomas Coleman. Around his neck was found a sign which read, "Niggers should leave white women alone."
I'm very proud of my faith and the faith of my fathers, and I certainly believe that it is a faith, well, it's true, and I love my faith, and I'm not going to distance myself in any way from my faith.
The question is, do you believe it's a sin for a white man to marry and procreate with a black?
No. Next question.
The successor of Brigham Young was John Taylor. He was the third president of the Mormon Church. He continued to preach that black people were the cursed children of Cain, and he continued to ban them from the priesthood and temples. This is what he had to say about black people. And after the flood, we are told that the curse that had been pronounced upon Cain was continued through Ham's wife, as he had married a wife of that seed. And why did it pass through the flood? Because it was necessary that the devil should have a representation upon the earth as well as God. End quote. Journal of Discourses, Volume 22, page 304. Joseph Fielding Smith was interviewed by reporters for Look magazine in 1963 and asked about blacks in the church and if the Mormon Church would always ban blacks from its priesthood and temples. Joseph Fielding Smith replied, quote, "Darkies are wonderful people, and there is a place for them in our church." End quote. Joseph Fielding Smith, Look magazine, October 27, 1963, page 79. Indeed, there was a place for blacks in the Mormon Church before 1978, as eternal servants to white Mormon gods and goddesses. Needless to say, very few blacks joined the Mormon Church during the priesthood and temple ban era, which lasted from 1848 until June 8, 1978. Governor Romney Why did you serve a Mormon mission in France during the time the Mormon Church banned blacks and taught that blacks were the cursed and inferior children of Cain, only fit to be, at best, eternal servants of white Mormons in heaven? Mitt Romney has repeatedly been asked if he agrees with the Curse of Cain doctrine, or if he thought that the priesthood ban against blacks in the church was wrong or a mistake. Mitt has always refused to answer, saying he was there to speak about politics and not his religion. He wisely avoids the question. On June 8, 1978, Mormon Church President Spencer W. Kimball ended the priesthood and temple ban on black Mormons, although he did not even mention the Curse of Cain doctrine. This announcement that the 130-year-old priesthood and temple ban on blacks had ended is called Official Declaration 2, or the 1978 Revelation, although it is not a revelation but merely a statement ending the priesthood and temple ban. Brigham Young taught that blacks would not get the priesthood until after the millennium was over. Why then did Church President Spencer W. Kimball ignore that and get rid of the priesthood ban in 1978? The answer is simple. Because President Jimmy Carter, the President of the United States in 1978, told Mormon Church President Spencer W. Kimball that the Mormon Church had to end its 130-year discrimination against black Mormons, or the federal government would end the church's tax-exempt status. You see, along with being a church, the Mormon Church is also a corporation that owns hundreds of companies, millions of acres of land, thousands of buildings, and takes in about $11 billion per year from tithing and from the profit of church businesses which are not taxed a dime. If the church's tax-exempt status was removed because of the priesthood and temple ban, then the Mormon Church would have lost billions of dollars a year from untaxed tithing and untaxed businesses. That tithing money and those businesses would have been taxed, and the Mormon Church would have lost billions each and every year. To prevent that from happening, something had to be done. But wait a minute, what about the Curse of Cain doctrine? The 1978 revelation by Mormon President Spencer W. Kimball said nothing about the Curse of Cain doctrine. Has the Mormon Church ever apologized for it? Nope. Has the Mormon Church ever issued a repudiation of the Curse of Cain doctrine? Afraid not. The Mormon Church has never issued an apology or public repudiation of the Curse of Cain doctrine, which its leaders taught as a doctrine of the church for 130 years. That's right, the Mormon Church, via its public affairs department, now denies that the church ever taught the Curse of Cain doctrine. They are calling it some folklore which some members believed but was never a doctrine of the church. We would like to see the Mormon Church make a public apology for the Curse of Cain doctrine, admit that they taught it as a doctrine of the church for 130 years. On Australian television in 1997, Church President Gordon B. Hinckley was asked why the church banned blacks from its priesthood and temples for 130 years. President Hinckley replied, quote, "I don't know what the reason for that was." End quote. Compass TV program aired November 1997, Australian Broadcasting System. The younger generation of Mormons are not racist at all, but they are being lied to by their leaders. They are being taught that the Mormon Church just doesn't know the reason why it banned blacks for 130 years. They are told nothing about the Curse of Cain doctrine. We hope that the journalists will have the courage to ask Governor Romney if he will issue a public statement regarding the Curse of Cain doctrine or not. To date, Romney refuses to answer, changes the subject, and the journalists always fail to get him to answer any Curse of Cain questions. The news media must keep asking and keep demanding an answer. Governor Romney, will you issue a public statement which clearly and unequivocally repudiates the racist Curse of Cain doctrine and the racist priesthood ban policy which your church taught and instituted for 130 years? Let your friends know about this video. Leave your comments in the comment box below, we'd love to read them. If you want to know more about the history of racism and the Curse of Cain doctrine in the Mormon Church, then go to online to the following websites: blackmormons.webs.com, We hope that any journalists watching this video will want to start asking Governor Romney about the Curse of Cain issue. Will he issue a public statement repudiating it? Or will he continue to remain silent on the issue? If you don't ask him, then nobody will. Also, don't forget to vote in November for the candidate you think will best represent all of the American people. In this election, every vote will count. Thank you for your time.